On Monday, October 3rd, 2005, a small blog was created online titled The Indian Lake Project, and over the course of 8 years, the creator would go on to detail their encounter with a small metal box containing classified documents for a government project. The project was similar to MKUltra, however the main focus was experimentation on children. It was up until 2013 that, without warning, the creator vanished off the face of the internet. Fortunately, their blog posts still remain for us to read, so sit back and relax, because this is going to be a long one. Now let me tell you the story of the infamous Indian Lake Project. On July 9th, 1997, my uncle was hiking in a wooded area around Indian Lake, New York. He tripped on what he thought was a tree root sticking slightly out of the ground. When he looked back, he noticed the corner of this box above ground. The fact that he was far away from any marked path or road and was in an area that few, if any, usually hike, sparked his curiosity. The box was sticking up by only 2 or 3 inches, and from the look of the ground around the box, he figured it had been there for quite a while. With only sticks to dig with, it took him a while to pry it from the ground. The 3 shapes on top of the box, an upside down triangle and 2 circles, were only apparent after it was later cleaned up. The box had no lock on it and was easily opened. Inside the box, my uncle found 21 water-damaged photos, 3 8mm home movie reels, and various documents. Most of the photos are of kids, which led my uncle to fear the worst, that he had stumbled upon evidence of a crime involving children. He mentioned that his blood ran cold when he began reading the documents also found in the box. He indeed had stumbled upon a crime involving children, but instead of some child molestation, it seemed that these children were all part of some US government experimentation. Those experiments were known as the ILP, or the Indian Lake Project. In 2002, my uncle died. This box was given to me shortly before he passed away. He was afraid of the contents in the box and wished he had never found it. I feel it is my obligation to share its contents and the truth behind what has been buried for 50 years. This is the metal box found near Indian Lake, New York. I'm in the process of scanning the contents of the box and will post those scans as soon as possible. Here are some of the photos from the metal box showing part of the ILP military base. It was a non-permanent government installation located deep in the woods around Indian Lake, New York. Based on documents found in the metal box, it was in operation from 1952 to 1955 and was used in part by Army, Naval, and Air Force intelligence officers throughout those years. Its existence was highly classified, and very few other than essential personnel even knew of the base or its location. Above are 2 pictures found in the metal box. They show military personnel with ILP children. Although no writing was found on the photographs to indicate who was pictured, it appears both boys and girls were housed at the base. Roger, Sam, and Sally are the quoted names, along with numbers, printed on the face of the photos. These are obviously not the children's real names, but assigned names. As I looked at the names and numbers the first time my uncle showed them to me, I didn't quite grasp what they meant. I remember my uncle had told me Roger was probably one child out of 837 based on his number kept at the camp. His word kept struck me as both eerie and accurate. Take a close look at these 2 pictures. Are these 2 little girls the same? Was the second picture taken a year or 2 after the first? If so, that would further illustrate that the camp's children were raised by military personnel. There's still so much to piece together, but there is also much that has been learned by studying the contents of the metal box. There aren't many days that I don't think about the ILP. It's like a giant mystery. I'm the only one who knows about it. It's not like you can just find the answers in a history book. Was the metal box buried to hide the past forever? Or was it buried by someone hoping that someday the horrid truth would be exposed? Who buried it, and why, is a question I ask myself every day. I think this photo is very telling, and was included in the box for a reason. It shows two men, one civilian and one military. The civilian man, perhaps one of the scientists or project directors, is recognizable. The second man has purposefully had his face obscured. It looks as if this civilian is important to the ILP, while the officer is trying to protect his identity. Could this officer be the owner of the box? Was he trying to shed light on the subject without exposing himself? Look closely in between the two men, and you can see one of the ILP children. This sequence of stills is from one of 3 movie reels found in the box. It shows at least 4 children within a cage-like area receiving a meal. I hope to post portions of all the movie reels as soon as I can. I have created an email address for those of you who have questions about this subject or just want to comment on it. indianlakeproject@earthlink.net. These are photos of Roger. All of these photos share the number 837 and show Roger at different ages. It's apparent that the children of the ILP were in the possession of the military for a number of years. Roger has the most pictures, and was perhaps a responsibility of the owner of the box. Or maybe he was an important child for some other reason, I don't know. I also don't know why Roger is sitting at a table for a meal, yet I have a movie that, in part, shows children being fed through a cage. What I do know is that these few pictures are all I have left of Roger, which is more than most of the ILP children have. Here are a couple of great questions from my email that I wanted to share. What do you think the nature of the base was? It was a military installation that conducted experiments in both mind control and, to a lesser extent, ESP using children. Although I have some evidence from the box that they used adults at first, children replaced them when it was realized that a child's mind is much easier to condition. Where did all the children come from? I can tell you what I know. At least 2 orphanages in upstate New York authorized adoptions for persons with military background or who were currently in the military, almost exclusively during the years of 1952 to 1955. I also think it is possible for children who went missing during those years from the surrounding area to be part of the ILP's numbers. You say your uncle died. Do you think he died because he found the box and the military had him taken care of? No. He died of lung cancer after a short period of remission. Thank you all for your questions and comments. Keep them coming. There are several pictures that have common numbers on them. I showed you in an earlier post that both Sally and Roger had a number 4 on their photos, and what I thought those numbers meant. Above are 2 pictures that have common numbers on them. However, this time, I have no theory on why the number 16 appears on each photo. Perhaps someone reading this might be able to offer an idea. In the first photo, the number is easily seen in the upper right corner. In the second photo, the 16 is visible in the lower right corner. Notice that the second photo has severe water damage. The photos from the box that show the most damage were either on the top or bottom of the contents in the box, therefore protecting the center photos and documents. Above are 3 frames from the second of 3 movie reels. It shows children listening to what I believe to be high-frequency sounds. Perhaps these sounds were used to stimulate programmed responses, or used in conditioning, as shown. These clips only show the controller's hands, and never their face. The children all have a slightly apprehensive look on their faces, yet they never look upset. One final note. I've never viewed these movies properly. I'm afraid that doing so could damage them, as they're not in very good shape. Therefore, I don't know if they're sound, which is a shame, because that could answer some questions. Project Artichoke was a CIA project that researched interrogation methods and arose from Project Bluebird in 1951. The project studied hypnosis, among other methods, to produce amnesia in subjects. Project Artichoke was an offensive program of mind control that gathered together the intelligence divisions of the Army, Navy, Air Force, and FBI. I believe that ILP was part of Project Artichoke. The scope of the project was outlined in a memo dated January 1952 that stated, "Can we get control of an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will and even against fundamental laws of nature, such as self-preservation?" Project Artichoke was renamed Project MKUltra in 1953 and was first brought to wide public attention by the US Congress in the form of the Church Committee and a presidential commission known as the Rockefeller Commission. CIA documents suggest that the agency considered and explored uses of radiation for mind control as part of MKUltra. Other early efforts focused on LSD, which appears to have formed the majority of research as time went on. Experiments included dosing CIA employees, military personnel, other government agents, prostitutes, mental patients, and members of the general public with LSD to study their reactions, usually without the subject's knowledge. When Project Artichoke became MKUltra, the ILP's role was reduced and then eliminated. There were many declassified documents from the congressional hearings, however none of them mentioned very young children, 12 or younger, being used in MKUltra experiments. I think by then, the ILP was buried, both literally and figuratively. Above is a seemingly random picture that was also included in the box. Shown is a soldier in a wooded area, such as what can be found around Indian Lake, New York. I say seemingly random because it begs a question. Why would the person trying to bury this box include such a picture? Wouldn't burning these pictures have been smarter than hiding this type of evidence if the intent was to get rid of it? I believe the answer is that whoever buried this box either wanted it to be found or was going to come back for it. I can't imagine the random photos were permitted on an installation such as the Indian Lake. Therefore, the person who buried this box probably took this picture and most of the others. This person must have been someone with proper clearance, and seeing him with a camera was not given a second thought. I believe it was probably he who took not only the exterior and interior shots of the base, but also the shots of the military personnel, posing proudly with the children. I believe in photographing these subjects, he was documenting the people of interest at the ILP. Perhaps at first he was fully compliant with what was going on, but I believe at some point he changed his mind and began collecting evidence. The shot above was quickly snapped. The subject is not centered or even ready for the shot. This was probably done toward the end of the ILP. I don't think he shot the small pictures of Roger, Sam, and Sally. These are on a thicker stock and seem to be more like a Polaroid type of process. A few posts back, I showed a picture of a civilian and a military person with his face purposely obscured. In between them, a child could be seen in the shadows. The more I look at the photo, the more I believe that this is the man who buried the box. Here's a question from this week's email. Have you ever been to the area where your uncle found the box? This is a timely question. I fly out today, Friday, to attend my cousin's wedding this weekend in upstate New York. I took today off from work and I'm taking an earlier flight just so I can visit the area. Finding the exact location where my uncle found the box will probably never happen, but I know approximately where it was found. I believe the box was buried outside of the ILP grounds, and therefore, looking in the general area and keeping my eyes open might yield something new. I've been there 3 times with my metal detector, and will post pictures from all combined visits when I get back. I'm back from New York. I just got home and had to rush to post these pictures. I can't describe the feeling I got from being in the woods for about 3 hours, and then seeing these structures. I don't know what they are, but I know they don't belong in the middle of the woods. This is, to me, the most clear evidence that something went on in the woods near Indian Lake, New York. I will post more evidence later. This quick trip to New York for my cousin's wedding turned out to be my most incredible discovery yet. Besides the metal box my uncle originally found, these concrete structures are the jackpot when it comes to evidence that something man-made did exist in the woods near Indian Lake. These structures are about 3 to 4 stories tall. They have no top, no sides, and form a square. They are very deep in the woods, with nothing leading to or away from them. This area also seems to be a little less wooded, as if cleared at one point, but now overgrown. I never really understood my uncle when he said that he had wished he'd never found the box. How could he not embrace his discovery? Finding those structures while alone in the woods was eerie. I began to feel like I wasn't alone out there. It was an odd feeling. Everything became very real to me. The box, the children, and the isolation. My walk out from the woods was a little faster than my walk in, and I now realize what my uncle meant. Finding something like this is proof to oneself that things are never as they seem, that your little happy life is something rare, and that lies and deceit are common. Your innocence is over, and you have discovered a hidden truth. I now know how my uncle felt, because it just became that much more real to me. Here are this week's email questions. You said that you also have documents. When will you share those? I go back and forth on this. Some of the documents have names and dates of people and places that could prove damaging to those involved. My growing fear is that this was a cover-up, and those who cover things up like this don't want to have their names posted on the internet. They probably don't want pictures either, but it's too late for that. However, to name names is the next big step, and I'm not sure I'm ready to take it yet. What else can you tell us about those structures in the woods? As I said before, eerie. They didn't make sense being there, and I still don't have any idea what they are/were. I took quite a few pictures, and perhaps I will post more later. That's it for now. Since my last posts, a lot of things have happened to me, which makes me believe that posting any more items from the box would not be in my best interest. I've had numerous phone calls, only to hear silence on the other end, as many as 20 times a day. My house was broken into and searched, but nothing was taken. The box and its contents had been securely hidden outside of my home. I did this shortly after the phone calls began. It's obvious to me that I hit a nerve when I mentioned the documents I have, and that I was considering perhaps posting them at some point. I am no longer going to post anything. I am done. I hope that anyone who stumbles onto the site will read it from the beginning and continue to stay interested in the story. For those of you who have followed this blog, I'm sorry, but my family and their peace of mind comes first. As disturbing as these photos and documents are, the last few days for me and for my family have been even more so, which is why I am saying goodbye. After careful consideration and much encouragement from your countless emails, I've decided to begin to post once more. My apprehension is only countered by my determination to find answers and bring awareness to those children who became victims of the Indian Lake Project. Much has happened since I stopped posting, and I will share with you what I feel I can at this time. This is a horrifying real-life mystery that for me will not go away. It feels good to be back. This is about the only place I can get my thoughts and discoveries out to the public. Like I said before, much has happened since I stopped posting. In short, my wife and I have separated, and about 3 weeks ago, I moved to New York. Being closer to Indian Lake, I can visit the area I believe is connected to the ILP, which has yielded some interesting finds. With more time to explore the area, I have found more of the concrete structures, which I now believe to be supports for a road. Once I located a few more, I realized that they were all perfectly aligned. It is now clear to me that there used to be a road in the middle of the woods. Perhaps this was the road into and out of the camp itself. I'm currently exploring more to find either the end of the road or the beginning. I will keep you posted. Another interesting thing is that I received an email from a woman who claimed to have first-hand knowledge of the camp. Let's call her Mary. After several emails back and forth, I believe her. She is one of the main reasons I have begun to post again. With her permission, I'm posting the first email she sent to me. I have withheld information at her request. Dear John S., I reached your website through website forums page. On it, I was surprised to read the words Indian Lake Project. My father was stationed at the camp that was known as the ILP in 1955. His name was... I'll be interested in knowing if his name is mentioned in any of the documents you have in your possession. As a little girl, I used to overhear my mother and father talking about the children of the ILP. I could tell you things that would make your jaw drop to the floor. You're close, but I can fill in the blanks. Sincerely, his name was on the camp personal manifest for all years, not just 1955. There's absolutely no way anyone would know that name and its connection to the ILP unless she was who she said she was. Before I immediately responded, I began to think that maybe this was somehow a way to, for whatever reason, gain my confidence and begin to manipulate me. I did not email back for 3 weeks while I went over it all in my mind. This was obviously someone who knew something. In March, I finally decided to see where this journey was going to take me, and I responded. I have since learned a lot more about the ILP, the children, the experiments, and the men and women who work there. I believe this person to be genuine, and will post more of her stories soon. On a side note, I'm sorry I haven't been posting as frequently as everyone would like. I'm in a new city, at a new job, and very much in over my head with this obsession. After being in contact with the woman I mentioned in my last post for the past several months, I'm beginning to have second thoughts about her and her motives. I agreed, at her suggestion, that we work together on this project. We began to share what each of us had. Her knowledge is based on her father's military career and connection to the camp, and my documents, pictures, and film. Maybe I should have known better, but when you find someone who has knowledge of something like this, you just get sucked in. I began to grow suspicious of her when she wanted me to send her the originals so that she could see them in person. Something I did not do. She was more than willing to send me personal effects left by her father, which seemed odd to me. There has been several things she said or told me that don't add up, and my feeling now is that she is not sincere in her motives, or that she is even who she says she is. I have since cut off all communication with her, and I'm back on my own. She did have genuine knowledge that I could confirm, but where she got that knowledge kept me up at night. The worst part is, all the information I've gathered from her over the past months is suspicious at best, and pure deception at worst. Over the weekend, someone sent me an email asking why, if the government has disclosed information on MKUltra, is the Indian Lake Project not part of those declassified papers or testimonies? This is a great question. Although I feel as though what happened at Indian Lake is part of the various MKUltra type projects, it was different. It was specifically designed to experiment on children. That being said, the question remains. I believe that the answer is simple. It is still going on today. Not at Indian Lake, but the lessons learned at Indian Lake are the fuel for what could be the vast brainwashing and mind-controlled network of operatives living amongst us today. I know it sounds like it could be straight out of the X-Files, but there is a saying, sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. And in this case, I agree. In one of the films, I have shown several interior and exterior clips of the military base that was home to the Indian Lake Project. In these few still frames, you can see that the base was equipped with the means to house several children. I've also included a picture of a bed, not a cot as shown in the film, perhaps suggesting that there could have been different areas to deal with the different stages of the child's life inside the base. One of the questions that I keep getting via email is, when will you scan and share the documents you have? Rather than responding to each of you individually, I will answer that question here. I have yet to talk in depth about the documents, so let me do that first. I have 4 documents, one of which is handwritten. The handwritten letter is about the camp and looks as if it's torn from a private notebook. My thought is that it probably belonged to the person who buried the metal box. One document is Camp Personnel Log. It also has several names and dates on it. It looks like a compilation of camp activity during the years 1952 through 1955, focusing on the comings and goings of various personnel and official guests. The third document is the adoption record of a little boy, maybe of Roger, the little boy who had the most photographs in the box. The final document is a brief medical report for one of the camp's residents, again, perhaps Roger. At this point, I do not want to post these documents for a couple of reasons. The first reason is I don't believe that posting them would be in my best interest. The second reason is I cannot yet confirm any of the information contained in those documents. I've been asked, why not black out the names and show the documents? My response to that question is, why? What does that show, other than a document with the important information hidden? My current focus is not on the documents, but rather exploring the area where my uncle first found the box. I want to do this before the day comes out when everything has been cleaned up by the military/government, and suddenly keep out signs are posted everywhere. Depending on the weather, I might take another trip into the woods this weekend. I'll post pictures and videos if I find anything new. If any of you are fans of the show Lost, this should look eerily similar. When I was in the woods back in November, I found an underground complex. It is what I believe to be the heart of the ILP base. This was probably where the children were housed and the experiments were conducted. I've been holding off posting this picture for a while because I wanted a chance to fully explore the structure before anyone sealed it shut. I've explored it a total of 4 times and have drawn a map to the best of my abilities of the interior rooms, halls, etc. This is not the main entrance into the complex, but was the first and only other one I found. I'll post a map and the interior pictures in the future, but I just want all of you to know that there has been some very interesting developments and give you a little taste of what I've been up to. I'm sorry I didn't share this sooner. There have been several times that I have been afraid since my uncle gave me the metal box, but going down those stairs with only a flashlight was without a doubt the scariest thing I've ever done. Once I climbed down the ladder, I stood in front of a metal door. This is the room behind it. I think this is the room and equipment that provided the electrical power for the underground complex. Without a doubt, this is the back door to the complex. The room itself was very damp and cold. It housed 3 rusted generators, as well as what looked like a heating unit of some kind. Working my way through the generator room, there was a large empty room through a doorway to the left. The doorway on the left led to several rooms, while the one on the right led down a hallway. I will post a map of this underground complex over the weekend. My recent post about the underground complex sparked many emails. Here are a couple of the questions I received. How did you find the entrance, and how did you get inside? I used my metal detector to search the area, and have for quite some time. About 50 yards from where I found the storage shed, I found the entrance. It was only slightly covered with dirt and leaves. It was locked with a padlock, which had the initials USMC, United States Marine Corps. It took a little while to pick the lock, but once I did, the hatch opened right up. Did you find anything while exploring the different rooms? No. All the rooms are empty, with the exception of the generator room, which was all full of electrical equipment. At least that's what I think it is. You said that this entrance was a back door, but you didn't find any other doors. If there are no other doors, how can this be a back door? In addition to the back door, I found what I believe was the main entrance from within the underground complex, and that door won't open. I have not found it above ground yet so that I can try to open it, assuming it was locked the same way as the back door. Here is a map of the underground complex. I've already posted pictures of the highlighted rooms in prior posts, but as you can see, there are much more I need to post. The highlighted X is the entrance I found that led down to this complex. The next room is the generator room, followed by the 2 other rooms I posted. Sometimes I wish I had never started posting. With great enthusiasm, I began to share my photos, my thoughts, and my discoveries. However, I soon realized that this was a mistake. A mistake that cost my marriage, my privacy, and my peace of mind. Now there seems to be no turning back, and I wonder where it'll all end. The phone calls have started again, and without a doubt, I'm being followed in my day-to-day activities. I wish it would all stop, but it's probably too late for that. I'm walking a fine line between sharing everything I have and sharing what I feel I can. The feeling I get is that they want me to go away, and the question is just how long until they force me to do so. Here is another picture from the underground complex. This is one of 3 identical rooms. Notice the metal frame on the wall. It looks like it once held a small screen or monitor of some sort. Also, the framework has holes, probably for the control knobs. I wonder what went on in these rooms, and what device used to be attached to these walls. I've been getting an increasing amount of emails recently. Most of the emails offer helpful suggestions. Some send encouraging messages to continue, and some fear for my safety. To everyone, I say thank you. There is one, however, that suggested I close down the site for fear I've let this consume me. At first, I thought it was well-meaning, but then I thought about it a little. Since I've not posted in a while, I thought you might be interested in this. 2 weeks ago, I found this abandoned vehicle in the middle of nowhere. Although this is less spectacular than the underground complex, it is more evidence of activity in the woods around Indian Lake. There is no doubt that I have found the location of the Indian Lake project base. There is also no doubt that I have hit a nerve with someone. I don't want to go into details, but I won't be going back into the woods anytime soon. Here are a few recent emails. Why have you stopped posting again? I haven't stopped posting. I just stopped going into the woods. The short answer as to why is that I was followed. At this point, I don't know by whom. Since I don't want to lead anyone to the places I've discovered, I've decided to keep my distance. Did you find anything inside the truck? Nothing. Everything is long gone. The truck is not really far, about 50 yards, from the old shed I found, but is overgrown and was just hard to see. Just to clarify, I did not find the truck on the same day that I realized I was being followed into the woods. Have you connected any other pieces you would like to share with us? Nothing I'd care to share at this time. In February, I began to notice a large unmarked white van following me or showing up wherever I went. This continued through March until I was able to snap this photo of the van on my camera phone. Once they became aware that I knew I was being followed, it all stopped. That is, until recently. As I said, sometimes this van would just show up. They seemed to always know where I was going to be, which leads to my reason for not going into the woods anymore. On the way to explore the ILP, I noticed 2 hunters with shotguns heading into the woods, in the unmistakable white van hidden behind the trees and bushes well off the road. Needless to say, I sped past at about 100 miles per hour. I'm posting this now because I feel that perhaps the more I speak out, and the more people who know about me and the ILP, the safer I'll be. Here's something I recently noticed. The children from the 8mm movie reel look as if they're blind. As if putting children in cages isn't bad enough, the fact that they put blind children in cages is somehow even more disturbing. The unanswered question remains, why? I woke up this morning and opened my front door to get the Sunday newspaper, and this was sitting next to it. This is either one of 2 things. A bird happened to die outside of my front door, or someone put it there as a form of intimidation. I don't think it takes a genius to figure out which of the 2 it is. Could you give us a GPS location of the structures you found? I could, but I won't. Was there any writing on the walls of the underground complex? Not that I noticed. Do you really think our government is capable of this kind of thing? Do you really think they aren't? The short answer is yes. The long answer is below. I'm sorry that I've not posted in a while, but from time to time I need to step back and take a look at everything. Everything from what I've personally found in the woods and what was in the buried box, to the things that I've experienced since starting this blog. Sometimes I need to try and make sense of it all to keep my sanity, but there are times when things don't make sense. Here is another picture of the underground complex which I had not yet posted. I've also reposted the map to show where it is. Inside this room are 8 beds, 3 still intact and set up, plus 5 dismantled and leaning against the wall in the near corner of the room. Like the other rooms, it's dark, damp, and very quiet. Standing in that room was very eerie, especially realizing that several children had once been housed there. Over this past weekend, I observed a low-flying military-style black helicopter making several passes over the area I know to be the old ILP base. Though I've not been in the wooded area for a long time, I can't help but wonder if someone else was exploring in those woods on Saturday. Now to answer a few of those email questions. Where have you been? Are you dead? Did they catch you? Those plus many more forms of that question have been sent to me. The obvious answer is that I'm still here, maybe just a little bit more low-key. I live in the area. Can I help? Several emails have come in like this, and my answer is thank you, but no. Oftentimes I don't even want to be involved in this, and after the fiasco with Mary, I can say for certain that I will never let that happen again. Are you still being followed or watched? Not that I've noticed, and things seem to be normal, but there's no way to know for certain. Will you ever go back into the woods? No comment. Let me put it like this. The less I say about it, the easier and safer it might be to do so. As always, thank you for your interest in the event that took place near Indian Lake, New York. Several of you have emailed me to ask when I will post again. I've been busy with my research and I've found out many more things about the ILP, the people who worked there, and most importantly, the children kept there. Still debating on how much to share, if anything. I'm sorry I don't post very often anymore, but please understand that I have concerns about when and how I should proceed. Things like this don't help. Thank you for your interest, concerns, and kind words of support over the past several years. I'm not going to stress the validity of this story too much, despite several factors pointing toward the notion that all of this is made up, such as OP's reluctance to release information and locations. Part of it is real. Project Artichoke, Project Bluebird, and Project MKUltra were all very real. So who's to say that something like this, something like the alleged Indian Lake project, didn't happen? At the end of the day, it was an enjoyable read, and I've been sat here for about an hour now, so I'm ready to be done. Yeah, so don't think too hard about it. Good night.